News, views, voices of the global Indian community. India abroad.
It is very difficult for them to listen to our economic message. And I have said, and I'll say proudly today, President Biden is the most progressive president on domestic economic policy that we have seen in a long time. As I said to him, we can't get in the door to talk about your message, Mr. President, because we need to have a shift on Gaza. And if we have that, then we can earn back. Then we can earn back the votes. And I would just say to everybody who is out there, I don't think in this room, but shaking their finger at young people and saying, you should know better, and how could you possibly think that Donald Trump is going to be better than Joe Biden? I have a 28-year-old. It doesn't work with my own kid. I don't think it's going to work with anyone else to say you should know better and to wag our fingers. We actually have to earn votes. We have to talk about, and we have to talk about what we're going to fight for. We are a great opposition party because we are definitely better than the other guy. He is really bad for our democracy. That is absolutely true. And we need to be a proposition party. And that's why in the Progressive Caucus, which I lead, and Ro and Shri are a part of, and Ami is an honorary member whenever he wants to be. Pretty soon he's going to join too. But we have released our proposition agenda, which is a proposition of what we're fighting for. Universal health care, making sure we have universal child care, making sure that we are keeping fossil fuels. That is wrong. We need to stop that.
Ro Khanna, I'll pivot a little bit. You've heard Rep. Jayapal talk about Trump and Biden and the two options. There are a lot of voters who are double haters. They say they cannot vote for Trump or Biden. What do you say to engage them? We know some of them might be in this room right here.
Really? We've got RFK supporters here? I don't know.
Any double haters? Feel free to raise your hand. I'm curious. Okay, maybe not in this room. I think I saw one hand maybe halfway go up, but okay.
Well, look, I think Pramila put it very, very eloquently, which is this is a binary choice election. And the president has had a remarkable record on economic policy for domestic policy, and we're going to continue to make progress on that. If he gets a second term, we are going to get a lot of the things in the Build Back Better with child care for everyone and dealing with community colleges and continuing to make progress in student loans and continuing to make progress on climate to stop the fossil fuel subsidies. And there's a better chance in terms of getting what Ami was talking about, a recognition of a Palestinian state and a two-state solution. You know, I didn't even know this, that there's this arcane law, because I was, why are we continuing to veto the United Nations resolutions on recognizing a Palestinian state? And there's a law apparently on our books in 1990 that if the United Nations recognizes a Palestinian state, then the United States can't fund the United Nations. So when we talk about complexity, you know, who's going to have a better shot of changing that law? Obviously, if we have President Biden there and a House and a Senate. So I think we just have to continue to make the case, and as Pramila put it, make the affirmative case that this is a transitional president to a more progressive future. Look, and acknowledge, like, the country wants to move on. Like, we don't want two 80-year-olds running. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. But life isn't about what you want. It's about choices. And this is a binary choice where the democracy itself is at stake. You know, I see Benita Gupta back there. I'd rather have her back in the government than someone who's going to like Donald Trump is going to put the people there who are going to start to prosecute political enemies. I mean, it's about as stark a choice as you could have.
And on Benita Gupta back there, she's actually holding a democracy and voting rights session right after this, so stay tuned for that too. You guys are making the point about Trump. I think, Rep. Jayapal, you made it very, very hard right now. There is an election also happening halfway across the world right now in this very moment, and it's Prime Minister Modi. And a lot of people make comparisons with Modi and Trump. And you just heard a few days ago in the New York Times podcast, I'm not talking about foreign media, I'm talking about a mainstream American media, one of the biggest outlets, really went hard on him, talking about how Modi is saying if the opposition wins, Hindus will take money from Muslims and give it back to Hindus. They'll take jewelry from Hindus and give it back to Muslims. He is making this distinction between first-class citizens, second-class citizens. Is it fair to compare the two? How do you compare Prime Minister Modi and Trump when it comes to rhetoric, when it comes to human rights issues?
Who's that for?
You.
All right.
I would be polite and give the mic to someone else, but I want to duck the question, so I'll answer a second one. Look, I have spoken out very, very clearly for pluralism in India. I have criticized some of the policies where there's been a privileging of citizenship based on Hindu nationality as opposed to pluralism. My grandfather, as people know, and I've talked about him often, Amarnath Vidyalankar, was in jail for 4 years as part of Gandhi's independence movement. And pluralism and a respect for different traditions was at the heart of Indian democracy. And I say this, and I said this directly to the Prime Minister, which he didn't like, Prime Minister Modi. I said, you may have the power, but Nehru and Gandhi captured the imagination of the world in a way you haven't. And I think that was because of their view that it wasn't just about economic power or military power. It was about having a India that was going to contribute to the forward march of civilization. That's why people still write essays about Gandhi in school, because of what he stood for. And so, of course, India is an ally, and it's an important ally, and we can't just shun India in terms of the relationship. But we need to prioritize speaking out for human rights. One final point, and then I let my colleagues speak about this. India was colonized for over 100 years. And so when we're having a conversation about human rights, and you're having a conversation with Jay Shankar or someone else, you have to understand that just coming in from a perspective of being, of lecturing India, when they say that we've had colonial powers lecture us for hundreds of years, is not going to be productive. But having a conversation saying, here are the imperfections in our democracy, what are the imperfections in your democracy, and how do we collectively advance democracy and human rights, I think is a more constructive approach.
Yeah, I agree with what Rose said, and I've said the same to the foreign minister, that if India loses its secular nation, it changes who she is as a country and how the rest of the world views it. But to the original question, no, I don't think a Trump presidency is necessarily the same as Prime Minister Modi being in power, because we still have a vibrant democracy here. We have a vibrant opposition party in the Democratic Party. We still believe in the freedom of the press, and those are all things that I worry about India's future. You see what's happening to the freedom of the press. You're not really seeing a viable opposition party, or it's being dismantled. And a vibrant democracy has to have all of those things: freedom of speech, freedom of the press, etc., the ability to push back. We will, again, I hope we don't ever see a second Trump presidency, but if that were to happen, you will see our democracy, it survived the first time, push back, and our democracy will survive. I certainly hope India's democracy survives.
I really agree with both Ami and Ro, and I think they've articulated so many pieces of this. The only thing I would add is that I think we have to be able to critique our own country's imperfections and any other country's imperfections. That's actually our job in Congress. We shouldn't lecture, I agree with Ro, but we do have to think about all of the United States' interests. That is economic, for sure. India is an important partner for us. It's an important partner because of other regional dynamics as well, and global dynamics. It is also important for us to think about our values. And just like we criticize the Chinese government for the treatment of Uyghurs or any other country in the world, we have to be able to also look at what's happening in India and call attention to it. And I know that I have been called a bad Indian and all kinds of other things for raising these critiques. But I would just say I'm not backing away from that, because those are the values of the United States. Those are my values. And I don't think it means that you don't appreciate or like or want a partnership between India and the United States to raise legitimate concerns about freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and all of the other things that we are seeing in India, any more than if we raise it here, it means somehow that we're bad Americans. No, that is our job, to be moving towards a more perfect union in the United States and with all of our global partnerships.
Senator, I'll give you 60 seconds because I know the two reps at the end got to have a hard out. So.
We need a strong U.S.-India relationship. India historically has been, playing both sides, Russia and U.S., but it's time for India to commit to a strong friendship with the United States, and that's something that I want to work on. United States have to recognize India's power, its economic power, and India remains the best solution to counteract China's aggression. So I'm just working on a strong India-US relationship.
I think it's really remarkable, and I hope everyone takes this moment in having 4 Indian American members of Congress talk about Modi the way they are. I haven't seen it before. I did a lot of digging on videos of you guys, and I think it's really incredible that we can have this conversation. Closing question, we've talked about what the stake is in this election, also what you are fighting for. I would love each of you to make a call to action. What is one thing that every person in this room can do today and in the next 6 months to protect democracy?
I think we need a strong political muscle. Indian Americans have been so successful in every walk of life, every areas, but we haven't been as strong a political muscle, and I really appreciate what Impact is doing. Having these gatherings, this conversation is so very important, but we need to take our economic power and convert that into political power, because without that, more Hinduphobia we're going to see more hate, and it's important not only for many of us to be in politics, elected politics, but we also need to develop a strong political muscle and support our candidates and support our viewpoints.
When I was in my 20s and young, I used to avoid coming to these Indian American political gatherings for one reason. It used to be marked by conventionality. And I used to think that if you were going to defy something, I ran against an incumbent who was a Holocaust survivor against the war. And half the Indian Americans thought, well, this is crazy, what are you doing? So my one thing to folks here is, if you have a path and you believe in that path, don't listen to anyone else. Almost anyone who makes it in politics by definition is defying the odds. And you have to be a risk taker. You have to be unconventional. If everyone else is thinking something and you're doing something different, you're probably right. You probably have a better shot of success. And I would just, believe in yourself and get out there, especially for women, because men, it's easier in terms of having that confidence. But, run, get out there, go do things. Doesn't matter if you fail, keep trying. I think that this is a golden age, actually, to be a South Asian over the next 10 years. And I'm excited about that future.
In organizing, we say, don't agonize, organize, right? And I have seen that. I was out on the doors with Meena Harris and Padma Lakshmi in Pennsylvania last year. We were knocking on doors. We're going to do that again this year.
Incredible girl power right there.
Indian Americans can make the difference. Yeah. And so when you think about, if you're in a safe seat, who are the 10 people you know that maybe are in a tough state or in a tough district where their votes could make a difference? How can you get engaged? What organizations? Impact does an amazing job of this, and I really want to shout out Neil Makija, who really launched Impact in a different direction. Now, of course, is a politician himself, and we're happy to have you in elected office, and we're so grateful for Chintan's leadership. But this is a moment for you to make your voice heard. So use the power you have, This is the title of my book. And know that you can make a difference because it is your organizing, you're speaking out, you're working in different places across the country where there are communities that you affiliate with. It doesn't have to be just Indian Americans, by the way. It can be young people, it can be whatever way you want to define it. But I think that is what we need over the next 6 months. Momentum. Let's build the momentum. Let's take back our democracy. Let's take back the House. Let's not work on hands-off our Appliances Act, which is what we spent time on last week. And Ami and I are going to very, very bizarre hearings where I'm going to be working on a markup of a resolution to condemn Merrick Garland. And so for not meeting a subpoena by a chairman who actually didn't meet his subpoena to come and testify. But this is what we're doing. So let's change that. Let's work on stuff that actually matters to our community, and let's preserve and protect our democracy.
Right there, I'm watching the clock for you, so feel free to keep it shorter if you have to.
I will keep it short. In democracy, your vote is your voice. So make sure you vote and then get 10 other people to vote. And this election at the top of the ticket is a binary choice. It's Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Look at both of those candidates. You might not agree with everything, but look at which candidate represents most of your values and that you could work with and continue to work with. But don't lose your voice and not vote, because that is how democracy dies. So you gotta vote, and you've gotta make that choice.
And I promise, this last part will only take 60 seconds, rapid fire questions for you guys. Really quick. Indian food or snack you should stay away from, but cannot.
Any of the hosts of the Indian sweets should stay away from them, but cannot.
Anything fried, pakora in particular.
I love halwa.
Ladoos, sweets.
Favorite Indian movie?
Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
I used to watch so many, I can't remember the names now. I'll have to, Mr. India, I remember that.
Lagan.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, I haven't seen an Indian movie in quite a while.
I had a feeling you'd say that. Okay, who should play you in a biopic? Bollywood star or Hollywood Indian? Well, name one. From those two.
We'll go with Dev Patel.
Mindy Kaling.
Kalpen, but it shows we need more Indian actors.
Absolutely, Shah Rukh Khan.
Two more. On time or Desi time?
Desi time.
Desi time, but because I want to be married, I've gotten better at it.
Desi time is what is real, but on time is what I am.
On time.
Number of years before we have an Indian American president?
Less than a decade.
Very soon.
Within a decade.
In 4 years.
No one said this. Okay, very last question. Yes or no? Is Ro Khanna running for president in 4 years?
Yes, absolutely yes.
Who knows?
The answer is yes, and we all know it.
We'll see.
I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, everyone.